Ooh, no sound.
I didn't unmute my microphone. Hello, here we are. Welcome to Vengeance Radio, number 3. I am Human Bones, and of course, I am joined by HateDaddy. How's it going?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I will say right off the bat, like none of our predictions from last week actually came true.
Yeah, it
I don't
fucking
know if you realize
sucks.
that. Yeah,
I'd prefer to not, but here we are.
I'm with you. Challenging week for a couple teams, and good weeks for others. So we had some really different maps this time around. We actually played all 3 maps that were available to play.
Yep.
We played map 38, map 49, and map 17. So they're all kind of completely different, although I would say a little bit more on the aggressive side, pretty fast-paced. I was surprised that more people did not end up picking map 17 because that's a pretty well-known map.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see some new maps get played, even at the detriment of some of the teams and their ability to learn them in 1 week. So let's jump right into the first game of the week, which was my game. That was SOS versus HTM. We played map 38, which was Aura. What is that map called?
I don't. What is it called?
Yeah, hang on. I don't know, but it's Aura like 01 or 03 or something. Anyway, it was an interesting map. I'll just jump into the stats real quick, and then we'll go from there. So SOS won in 2 rounds. They won 10 flags to 10 flags to 4. Sorry. They had 51 touches with a 19.6 cap percentage. HTM had 53 touches with a 7.54 cap percentage. Slared dominated with 6 captures. SOS had 186 frags. HTM had 194. And the high fragger was Solar with 78, although Tiger was right behind him at 75. I was thinking about what to say about this game, and the only thing that I could thank you. It's called Thermoelectric Map 38. Thank you. I'm only allowed to have so much information up here. I can't retain that much. But the only thing that I could think of to say was that I really felt a lot better about the game than the way that it went. Like, and I don't really know what I could have done better as a player. Admittedly, we really only practiced 1 day, but we were beaten up on some pretty good teams, and we actually practiced. It was Ty, myself, and Solar, and I mean, we went from like literally getting crushed in like 3 minutes, like no fucking answer, to we were beating teams in 3 minutes. Like we were doing really well. So I thought going into the game, I felt really super confident, like more confident than I felt all season. And we ended up playing Solar, and Solar can get out there and kick some ass.
Yeah.
I know that everyone that was in the server was like, oh, what about Vinny? I mean, obviously we know how good Vinny is, but we just seemed to play better with Solar, so we gave it a shot. I thought we did pretty well in the first round. It's a really interesting balance because I was playing mid to try and help the defender and help the runner. It's really hard to do on that map because once someone is gone, like someone grabs your flag and goes, you really don't have a chance to figure out where they're going, like in enough time to catch them. It's not like some other maps where they have to go through like the middle and you might have a chance. Like you might spawn so that you're basically at the same point that they are, but they just have a straighter shot to their own flag than you do, having to like get out of the side and go through the middle and all this crap. So it was really hard to find that balance. We were able to get some good touches, but SOS, I think, just ran. I mean, obviously Slared was running, but they just ran like a much heavier offense, I think, than we had been accustomed to in practice. Even still, I think the final score of round. Good job, guys. You count the death as a frag. That's from Turkey. Hey, nothing's perfect. So I think the first round scores were 5-3. So we felt pretty good about it. We said, okay, let's try again. I figured I would adjust. And the thing that I felt where we lacked was that we were able to get flags out. I got a lot of flags across, but we weren't able to get any returns to go in our favor. SOS did a good job of coordinating. So, yeah, I really don't know what else. I'm racking my brain. I don't know what else we could have done differently. Right before we started this, Ty sent me a comment. I'll start up there. If you want comments from me for this week, I thought we pracked. I can hear Ty saying that. Well, the night before the game, we should have switched it up, but a tough map for us. I don't know if it was a tough map for us so much as maybe the opponent we went up against, because I just think they worked really well together. That's kind of a map that plays well to SOS's strengths, having a well-coordinated offense, and the way that the flag is positioned in the map makes it difficult for you to get out, really.
Yeah.
You can kill a defender, but all the spawns are right there. So, it maybe it was a tough map for us, but I felt pretty confident, and I think SOS just played a little bit better, and they had a little bit more luck on their side when it came to those flag standoffs. We just could not get a single one, pretty much. So hats off to them. They played a really good game, and they find themselves doing pretty well going into the final week of the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah. I was one of the teams that actually helped your team practice, and it was pretty clear to us when we practiced with you that whatever strategy you were doing wasn't working. You were keeping up in frags, and that wasn't the issue. But I think that map is a really, how can I put it? I would say it's not geared towards offense, but it's geared towards instability. So it's not uncommon for flag standoffs to take place. And I have to say that the Soul Sphere is like one of the most underwhelming things about that map. And this week too, as well. I just feel like you have to go so far out of your way to get the Soul Sphere that it's almost not worth it. You're almost better off pressuring, But I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't actually going for the sphere. Basically, my philosophy as mid going for the sphere was that I was only going to go for it when I heard them lower it. And I don't know what, like, our stats don't show the sphere pickups, but I'm pretty sure I got a majority of them just doing that, like waiting for it to lower and then kind of hiding around the corner and waiting for them to come get it. It just
Even
didn't
if you
work.
got it, it doesn't matter. The map is so wide open that it's pretty easy to chunk somebody down. Like I said, I think, and if you look at the stats, and if you want to hold the stats up, I'm going to bring them up and look at them. It's interesting because you guys actually had both more frags and more touches than them. So you'd think, okay, this is obviously going to go not necessarily in here's the mid's favor, but like this is going to be close. And 5-3 and 5-2 isn't, or 5-1 is like, 5-3 isn't bad. Like 5-3 is probably a close game, but 5-1 is not so much. And the fact is that if you can keep pace with them, and to be clear, most of the discrepancy in frags and flags comes from round one, where you guys just like obliterated them by 20 frags. And that's kind of why that round was close. Whereas in round two, you lost by 12.
No.
But I think overall averages still prevail. And even though it's a small sample size, I think the difference was just coordination. And I watched some of it too. And Slared and Tigerians worked really well together. And frankly, I don't know who your offense was, but it didn't work well together. And that's hard. I mean, that's the downside. And you're going to see this from a couple of teams. It's going to be a theme this week. That's the downside of like not having a true O. And I don't mean like positionally speaking, but there are some players that just play O very well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put them in that role, not only do they do well for themselves, but they open things up for other people. Slaired went off, but I would go as far as saying that if you didn't have Tigerians in that game, Slaired probably doesn't do as well. They played really well together too. So I think that's probably more a testament to their ability to play together than it is a testament to Tigerians. But I don't have a lot to say about the Matt other than I don't like 3D floors in Doom CTF, and I think it was just a game where their coordination was better, and that's so cliche to say, but I mean, really, you look at the stats, and that's all it is.
It's true. I don't really. One thing I know that I didn't hear too much of was Solar on voice, and that's not like a knock on Solar, but I kind of realized afterwards, like we didn't communicate well, and it was Solar and I that were running, sort of, I mean,
yeah.
So Ty and I had that good communication, but I'm not sure I ever really got on the same page as him. And I will say, go ahead.
The language barrier doesn't help.
Yeah,
Solar's he speaks a passable English, but it's one thing to in conversation speak that language. It's another thing to just play live on it, where you're already having to play fast, but now you have to think fast. That's hard to do. Yeah. So, and I'm sure Solar's also just a quiet guy.
Yeah.
He's really reserved, so I don't think it's necessarily in his demeanor to just be like, all right, let's fucking go. Let's go. Where's the man?
Right. Yeah, we already got someone doing that. But I will say before the game, before our last practice, I fucking hated this map. Hated it I thought it was horrifying. The spawns were terrible. And then, the day before practice, something clicked, and I actually really like the map. I do. I just think.
I think it's okay.
I just think they had better teamwork, and that's kind of what it boils down to. So SOS gets the win on that, moves them up in the standings, and we not. So we will have to fight for our lives in week 4, which we will get to in a little bit. Let's jump ahead to GLF and PK3. Throw that up there. So they've actually played Saga. They played the other Denzela map that's available this season. GLF, they had 92 touches, 15.21% cap percentage. PK3 had 77, 10.38 cap percentage. Poto had 8 captures, and Tanya, in his season debut, he had 4. Had to throw that up there. GLF had 407 frags. PK3 had 387. The high fragger in this game was actually IM1HPU0 with 166, although Lang was right behind him at 164. So I kind of thought this might be how this game would go last week. This was the only thing I feel like I predicted well. GLF, I think they did what they needed to do. They did not put Azriel on defense. They put Lang on defense, which I thought was the smart move. And, Tanya, I will admit, is not somebody that I knew at all before season 2 of Vengeance. But watching him last season, I knew that he was a capable runner who just needed some practice. And he showed it today in this game. He showed that he was able to be basically, that hidden weapon for GLF. I mean, Poto got 8 captures, but Tanya got a lot of touches. He took a lot of attention away from Poto so that Poto was able to get in there and get a couple flags out, I should say. So I thought GLF really turned things around, figured out what works for them. I mean, Lang was just sitting there picking people off like it was, I don't know. He was going on a rampage pretty much. I mean, very hard to get by him. PK3, on the other hand, struggled a little bit. I know actually Dragon ended up sitting himself in round 3, which was kind of surprising. They just weren't able to get any touches across mid. I mean, they were dropping the flags basically on that bridge. The flags were dropping through. They were getting killed there, and the flag was getting returned almost immediately. And they tried a couple different positions. They tried Dragon defending, they tried Chain defending, they tried Toby defending. None of it was working. And Dragon gave me some commentary really quick. Throw that up there. He said, going into this week, I knew it would be a challenge given how little we practiced and given how the map plays. It can swing in favor of a team in seconds. You'd need a lot of practice to get it down consistently. This is why I benched myself the third game, because I was out of ideas. Plus, I played really poorly. I am certain the outcome would have been different with more practice from our side. So, I mean, that's a pretty fair assessment from a captain. I mean, if you don't practice enough, chances are once you get this late into the season, it's not going to go your way. I mean, especially against a team like GLF. So I thought it was interesting that Dragon did decide to sit himself. And round 3 started off, pretty okay for PK3. I thought they leveled things out a little bit. They had a little bit more stability. GLF in the first 2 rounds were like getting up on flags like in the first minute, and I don't think they scored anything in round 3 for like the first 3 minutes. So PK3 managed to level themselves out, kind of keep even with frags. But at the end of the day, I think, their lack of practice, lack of cohesion without a runner who's really Dragon, it was eventually their downfall, and GLF basically took over. So I was mostly surprised by Dragon sitting himself, but it's not the first time we've seen that, and it almost paid off. Almost. For like 4 minutes.
Yeah. So this is probably, in my mind, just kind of more of an affirmation that the 2, if I had to say like MVPs of the league, the 2 guys that come to my mind are Langrenus and Disparel. In round 1, and in particular round 1 and round 3, Langrenus was just filthy. I mean, just outright dominant. I have been impressed by Poto. Tanya was pretty solid. But I just, having practiced against Langrenus in this map a bunch, I could tell you he's just a machine there. And he can pretty much carry anybody in that map. Like, it feels like that map was like designed specifically for him as a player. I would not be surprised if this ended up being their home field. Or at least if they didn't go for it. It's the match itself kind of reminded me of like a shootout in sports. Like, if people aren't familiar with that terminology. In sports, when we use the phrase a shootout, what we mean is like defense is kind of just thrown off to the wayside and like you just try to outscore each other. Now, that's not what happened, but that's the style of that map. Like, that map is like more offense is better defense. If you're pushing up and pressuring defensively, even if it comes at the expense of leaking a touch, not necessarily a cap, but a touch, you do it because there are such bad spawn spots for a defender in that map that if you get like that shotgun spawn at the and let's see, you would be, let me think positionally, at the south end of the map and the north end of the map. If you get those spawns, you're done. You have no chance of returning that flag because you spawn so far away from where that runner is and you're not in a position to really do anything about it. So the only way you avoid that is by saying, fuck it, we won't play defense. We'll just play all out offense. And I thought Langrenus was the best of anybody that I'd seen. And I played against, we personally played against EDR and I practiced against Langrenus a lot. And he was the best I've seen of anybody do it, like just controlling the map. Like, not only would he push up and get a lot of frags in mid and even provide support for his runner, but then he'd also be returning flags on D and wouldn't even let somebody really get a lot of touches. So this felt like a match where PK3 was there. It would be like these slow starts. And then they just start scoring and scoring. But it's like that early on bad start like came back and bit them. Um, Probably not surprised by the results of this. I think this is what I would have expected. But I think I actually picked PK3, so I'm gonna just eat crow on that one. But now that I got a chance to see them with Tanya as opposed to Azrael, and then putting Langrenus on D, as you kind of alluded to, this is what I would have expected. And I think going forward, that's probably the best for them.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you can have that shutdown defender, it really opens. I mean, like you said, you have a really impressive runner that can open things up, but so can having a shutdown defender. You can have. I can't think of anyone, like you said, besides Sparrow who can match up on defense like Lane can. So I think that was a good move from GLF. And, they've had somewhat of an up and down season. Mostly it's been positive. So hopefully they're trending in the right direction. And PK3, not really worried about them. They just need a little bit more practice and, fine tune those positions. So they still got time to figure it out. Good game though. Really good game.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead. Yeah, really, really fun. It was fun to see. It's really fun, I have to say, to see people like Tanya. I'll even throw Solar out there, just to see people that don't get a chance to play very often get a chance to play in a game. So it's super cool.
Same thing. We saw it with Turkey in week 1 too. I like that. I fucking love it. Please. I love seeing it. So
yeah, nobody wants to see us play anymore. I mean, we're done. We're toast.
Yeah, I'm old and decrepit.
Yeah. I'm sick of myself. Okay, let's jump ahead to the next game, which was your game.
Mm-hmm.
Same map, Saga.
Yep.
So EDR had 48 touches. They had a 20.83% cap percentage. BNZ had 40 touches, 10% cap percentage. It was kind of pretty well spread across all of EDR here. Sharp had 4 captures. Fat Willie had 3. Despairl also had 3. EDR had 212 frags, BNZ 206, and the high fragger Despairl at 81. You were right behind him at 79. So, admittedly, I didn't get a chance to see this game. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it from my perspective. I am going to read what Despairl sent me. Big props to BNZ. I'm honestly quite surprised we got away with the 2-round win. Things would easily go the other way if we play again. Spawns are brutal, and I think we simply got luckier. It all boiled down to which defender got better spawns and kept his flag long enough for their runner to score. So, yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned that you weren't such a big fan of this map, so I'm curious to see what you thought about the game because it was a 2-rounder, which just I would not have expected that. Just based on everything we've seen this season. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the game from your perspective?
Sure. So first and foremost, big ups to the educated drug dealers. EDR is they're really good. Really, really fucking good. And I'm not in the business of making excuses for when I lose. And we lost, and it was fair and square. Despairl might have mentioned being lucky, whatever. It doesn't matter. I could tell you that we got off to a really fast start. I think we went up 2-0, 3-1, something like that. And keep in mind, what I'm saying now is not an excuse. This is just me explaining kind of why, in my perspective, we lost. So we actually did horrible in practice on this map. We did not do well at all in practice. Didn't help that we were practicing against Langrenus, but even when we weren't practicing against him, we were constantly losing like 5-1, 5-2 in this map. And we tried everything. Like, we tried heavy D, we tried heavy O, we tried just a guy sitting in mid the whole time fragging. Nothing worked. We tried Stal on O, we tried me on D. We tried so many variations, and we could not come up with anything consistent. And I think while maybe Despairl's description is a little bit off, I think they were better. I get the sense that he felt like shit, we survived that map. And I just feel like, well, we didn't. I'm not knocking, Denzela. But the spawn placements in that map are horrendous. I think structurally it's a very cool map. I think it's got very good flow. It's got great design for standoffs, for defense, for everything. But the chain gun spawn and the shotgun spawn are literally just big fuck yous to a defender. If you get either of those, you're getting scored on. And I think there's 3 other spawns. So basically 2 of them you lose if it happens. So if there's 5 spawns and 2 of them fuck you, you basically have a 40% chance of eating dick. And that's something that was also true for them. It's not, it wasn't just us. It's not like those spawns were only exclusive to us. But we spent so much time trying to figure out like what was the right way to play that map, that when we went up 2-1 or 3-1 or whatever it was, what we were doing correctly was just throwing bodies at their flag. And I think at some point they didn't get a cap, but they got very close to getting one. And like it kind of shook us back into like that we're not so sure, that really timid territory of like, oh shit, we don't know what we're doing here. And Stal didn't give you a comment, but I can speak for him on this one. We just felt like if this doesn't work round 1, we're going to try to put Ion in and see what works. Like it ended up being way worse. And that's probably not because Ion's any significantly worse than me or Wiz. It's just that we didn't practice together a whole lot. And it's just, we threw everything at them. We kept pace with them in frags. We kept pace in touches. I just think they figured the map out better than us. And I'm not afraid to admit when we lose. In round 1, another thing that kind of tilted me was we were down 3-2. I scored a flag. And as I scored the flag, my screen froze. And they scored because I wasn't there to like help return the rebound. So it kind of sucked. But again, that's not why we lost. Like that's one flag. There were so many other chances to win. So from my perspective, after bitching and getting the frustration of losing off my chest, and the full disclosure of being non-biased here, I think, truth be told, they just played the map better. And I don't have much else to say. I don't think I played great. I kind of feel bad because I feel like I was too indecisive. I should have either been really decisive to be a defender, like a help on D, or an O. Especially around 2, I really did not play well at all because I didn't set Ion up for success. So that's me. But yeah, it's hard for me to really be non-biased here. So I'll just say, look, man, props to them. They played well. They played better. They won, and they're the number 1 seed, and they showed why.
I think it's been really difficult this season because we've actually had such a huge influx of like brand new maps, like brand fucking new maps.
Yeah.
We've also had some hot fixes on maps that have come up. Some issues have come up in the middle of the week, which is also frustrating. But because I didn't see this game, I just in a short tangent, if I could. I mean, how do you view the new maps being included in the season? Like, do you think it's something where, okay, like it's great that we have these new maps, but maybe we should have just put them in the WOD and not necessarily included them in the season? Or are you okay with, having this amount of new maps? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because
so there's 2 different thoughts. Yeah, like there's 2 different kind of mentalities. I'm the type of person, like I always try to entertain both sides, or how many ever sides there are to any sort of phenomenon. But personally, and this is, the almost 20-year vet speaking here. This is not the objective, non-biased, analytical me. This is 20-year bias wanting to win. I'd be happy with playing the same 30 maps I was playing 10 years ago, and I wouldn't miss a beat. I like those maps. I like that style of play better. It was more grindy. It was to more of my preference. But I also think that got stale for a lot of people very quick, and it wasn't inviting to new players. So for me, I would say, after really thinking about it, I like it, despite the fact that it's not really my cup of tea. Because number one, we're giving everybody purpose. We're giving mappers purpose. Mappers are like, hey, I have a real shot to get my map played. It's exciting for players because we're both figuring. I talked with the Sparrow after the game and the league discussion, and he said the same thing. I was like, dude, we were getting blasted in practice. Yeah, we were too. We had no idea what we were. He's like, we had no idea any of that was going to work. So it's both of you go into it and you don't know. You could be as well practiced as you think you are, but you don't know. And I guess some people don't like that. And I can understand why, as somebody who wants to be in control of everything. I certainly can get it, but fuck, it's an invigorating feeling too. It's fresh, it's new. And I'm not against it. I think it's fine. I think that's the right decision 100% to include new maps, with, old maps being around to be like, hey, we didn't forget about these, but these are new maps and it's fun that way. As far as playtesting and stuff goes, I think it's really easy for a lot of people. And that's been, by the way, for people that don't know, this has kind of been a topic of discussion for the Vengeance WODs because we've had so many hot fixes. I think what people need to understand is that while, yes, we should always be as rigorous as we possibly can be with playtesting WODs, it is almost inevitable that you're going to find issues with them during the season. Even the WDL, even the IDL, the best run leagues ran into this. It happens. Look at the WDL last season. One of the maps you could literally run out of bounds on. Nobody knew that. And who would know that, right? And the other thing is people are talking about rigorous play testing to identify what's strategically correct in a map, and that's foolish. You will never identify what's strategically correct in a map through rigorous playtesting. You identify what's strategically correct in a map through actual play, through actual competitive play. And it just turns out that, hey, look, some of these maps from the last couple of weeks could be better. But that doesn't mean it wasn't rigorously play tested. That means that when it was put in a situation where competitive players with organized gameplay at the highest level of gameplay were put it to the test, then they said, hey, after we've seen what we've seen, yeah, this could be better. But that's the thing. Then you get into the argument, and this is a rabbit hole I'm not going down, but then you get into what's better. Now we're talking something that's entirely subjective. I think there's some objective debate on that, but most of it's subjective. I bitch about these spawn spots, but it's entirely possible they're fine, and I'm just being a bitch. I don't know. I'm not the authority on what is and isn't a good map. But what I can tell you is that there was playtesting done with the WOD. It's not like it didn't functionally work. It functionally worked. It's just that we found out some shit last second, like everybody does in every compilation WOD, because we're throwing together maps from 50 different WODs. And yes, there are going to be times where things aren't compatible with each other, and that happens. Sorry. So I just wanted to get that off my chest because that was something that was kind of floating around, and it was really annoying me. And I didn't say anything because I'm like, you know what? People are just frustrated. But now I'm saying something because it's kind of ridiculous, some of the things that people are saying, and it's really unrealistic expectations. These are things that even if we play tested them rigorously, we likely wouldn't have found them out.
Right. And I mean, it does annoy me too, because that was always my argument. I would suggest maps that were kind of outside the box. Like one of my favorite maps that I've suggested year after year after year is ZDCTF map 5, Blood and Water. And I said, hey, look, man, like you can judge it based on pub play, but you can't really judge it based on league play because it's never been played in an actual CTF match, like 3v3, WDL style, whatever you want to say. So that's really the only way that you're going to know if a map is good or not. And we also live in a different era where, like, what people might not understand is the politics that were involved in the IDL. That was the only CTF league round, period, end of story. Nothing else was going on. You were just not allowed to have maps in the WOD that weren't from another WOD that was officially released and completed. Yeah. So you wouldn't come up with these kind of issues. Whereas now it's like, okay, do people in their late 20s and 30s and whatever, do they have time to sit around necessarily and release a whole fucking WOD? No, they don't. So they come out with a map here and a map there. And they're like, hey, that map's pretty cool. Let's throw that in there. So we just live in like a different world where it's like you're almost playtesting like on the fly as you play in games and stuff like that. So like I totally agree with you, and obviously I'm biased because I'm helping run this league, but I also enjoy what did Dastin say? 50 hot fixes. You're right. But I mean I'm also in favor of playing new maps, and that's coming from another person that's been playing CTF since day one. Like I'm all good with what else am I going to learn on map 8? Tell me, enlighten me. What am I going to learn? So I think it keeps things fresh, but I mean, there's certainly some things that we could change. We could probably have a little bit more play testing before the WOD gets released, but
there's no such thing as too much playtesting, but it's not like there was just like we threw this together and said, okay, if it's ready, it's ready. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is, and you're right, the generations have changed. The other thing is everybody and their mom knows how to fucking map now. Like,
it's true.
Like, come on, like the best competitive players were not mapping 15 years. Some of them were, but most of them were not.
I don't know how to map, but that's only because I can draw something in paint and Chain will map it for me.
Yeah. Like basically Chain Dude and HumanBones are like the most potent mapping combo ever.
Yeah, right. Maps you'll never see. Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, like you said, props to EDR. They remain at the top of the leaderboard, and they will actually secure the number 1 seed for the playoffs. So they've positioned themselves pretty well there. Let's jump into our last game of the week, which was yesterday. That happened on map 17. That was TCO versus SSP. Throw up the stats, go through that game real quick. So TCO had 73 touches, 19.17 cap percentage. SSP had 73 touches as well, but they had a 6.84% cap percentage. Dastin with a fucking whopping 10 captures in this game. So 10 of the 14 captures went solely to Dastin. TCO had 369 frags. SSP had 347. And the high fragger was Turska. He had more than 35 frags. I think that's supposed to be 135. That was the typo.
Yeah, it's 135. You're right.
So watching the game, right, I noticed a couple things. And on paper, and maybe even in practice if you do it right, Turska and Denzela being that offensive force, who can stop that? It's kind of unstoppable. But the problem that I saw was that the way that, from my perspective, the way you play map 17 is if you have 2 guys running, you can't defend from outside the flag room. You just can't do it because there's nobody there to help you. And I think that's what Alpha was doing, was Turska and Denzela were constantly running, and Alpha was pushing way up. So people were getting behind Alpha, and when he died, nobody was there to help him. So he never really adjusted to that. he never really adjusted to the fact that he didn't have any help. What they should have done, or what they could have done, was Alpha could have played back and guarded the flag. That would have been better, but he didn't do that. So he was kind of easily overrun, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just mean like he was getting two guys running at him, and you can only hold that up for so long. Whereas it looked like TCO was doing the complete opposite, where Legion was actually defending from the flag room, and Dastin and Saltmine were, running really well together. So I know I mentioned that on the stream. I don't really think that SSP ever really adjusted well enough. And then, in round 3, part of the problem that we have is if you go down by 6 flags, that's kind of it for you. And some people don't want to continue playing after that. So I think the effort level took a bit of a hit from some people in round 3. So I mean, I don't know. I just think it was kind of another disappointing game from SSP. I just think they didn't position themselves well. They had the skill to make it happen. They were in the right positions, if you ask me. I mean, I think Alpha is certainly capable of handling defense. I just think that they didn't set themselves up correctly. And then, when they went down in flags, they never adjusted. So, I mean, TCO did a really good job of taking advantage of that. And I gotta give Dastin even more props. I mean, to have fucking 10 captures in a game is absurd. It's very rarely do you see that happen. So, regardless of the circumstances, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Dastin's a great player. So it's not shocking to me that he's doing well, and he always, I could go on. So the 3 players that I was really excited to see this season were Langrenus, Desparrow, and Dastin, and I could go on about them for hours. Like, I love their games. I love how clean mechanically they are. It's a pleasure for me as an old shit to see that there's newer players that are really fucking good at this game still and take this seriously. It means that we did something right. So they're, in a way, all of my children. And that's not creepy at all. But on a serious note, I don't have much to say about that game. The effort thing was kind of a big discussion. And look, it's a bad look, man. Even if, okay, it is over. Like, you don't do that. You don't fist run. You don't quit. Like, especially when you are on live stream, because now, yes, of course, it looks bad and the game is over. So you want to get it over with, but everybody has taken the time to be here. And as a player, I think it's personally important that you fight till the game's over, that you try your ass off, no matter what. When we were playing against EDR yesterday and we were down 4-1, I knew it was fucking over in round 2. I didn't stop fucking playing. Like, so the effort question is, it's a legitimate topic and it's a real thing. And I think that if players are going to show that, even, yes, again, it's a loss, it doesn't matter, but perception does, and that's a bad look. Especially if you're on a team that looks like they should be really good. And earlier this season, I said I thought Swolesphere could be as good as they want to be. It just is going to come down to practicing habits. And from what I've seen and what I've been told, their quality of practices are not good. There's very little communication. There's a lot of uncertainty about who's doing what. It's kind of just like, oh yeah, let's show up and play. Like, these are my boys. We're just here to play. And that's fine. But that's not going to get you anywhere competitively. You have to take this shit seriously. And if you don't, you're going to get exposed. Turska, Denzela, and Alpha on paper sound like a phenomenal team. And at the very least, statistically, Turska and Denzela are performing. I'd even go as far as saying Alpha's been fine. He's kind of doing a lot of things across the board that look good. But you could just tell they're not in sync. They're not in rhythm with each other. When you watch them play against anybody this season, the best they looked is when they were running with Sonya. Like, seriously. And I think there was probably like maybe some sort of bonding experience to run her in a game because it's like, oh, this is cool. She's never played before. Like, let's try our asses off to make this look good for her. But then when they get into like real games, it's just like you watch whatever team they're playing against look like a seasoned, grizzled team ready to go. They're prepared, they're practiced. And then it's just like three guys showing up for a pickup basketball game on the other end. Like, who do you think's going to win? Have you ever watched like those YouTube videos of like the street ballers and then they'll go and like play against like a college basketball team and the college basketball team smokes them by like 70, even though like the street ballers are like clearly better athletes. They've got better handles. They even in many cases have like a better shot, but like as a team, they just don't play well as a team at all because they're all just like ball hogs. That's kind of how Swolesphere, that's kind of how they feel. They just feel like, we don't really know what we're doing, but fuck it, let's do it. And, I'm not for, attacking a player. I have said this many times and I'll always say it. I like Alpha a lot. I think the world of him as a person, but it's starting to seem to me like being a captain is something he thinks he wants to do, but it's not something he actually wants to do. Because you have to, as a captain, like you have to take charge. Like you have to say, like, guys, like this is it. Like, let's fucking play. Let's get this together. And if a team is not playing or practicing well together, I don't care what the circumstances are, that's on the captain.
Yeah.
And no matter how you slice it, if you want to say, well, these guys didn't merge well, you put them together. Like, that's on you. Yeah, like that's on you. Like, and in 3 of the last 4 leagues that Alpha's been a captain, his teams have, and I was on one of those teams. And I hate saying this, but those teams have just been colossal disappointments. They have not been good. And I felt like our practices were super serious and super good, but from what I've seen now, I don't know. And like I said, maybe it's just because Alpha's too nice. Like maybe he's just not like the type of guy to be like, yo, like, let's get this shit together. Like, let's go. But if he just did that, I think his teams would be really good because I think Alpha's a good player. It just, I don't know. It's not coming together. It just kind of sucks. I hate feeling like I'm ragging on a guy, especially a guy I really like. Alpha's a good dude, and I think he could be a really good captain. I just think his issue is his mentality. It's like, I don't think he has the serious drive or the competitive drive to be a captain.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference between someone who's a player and someone who's a captain is like, I mean, at the end of the day, shit goes wrong, shit's going haywire. You have to be the one that makes a decision to say, this isn't fucking working. We're going to do this. Or, you have to look at the game a little bit more objectively than I'm performing really well at my position. So everything should work out fine. I mean, and look, I've never played with him on a team, but, I think you need you're right. It does take a a different perspective to be a captain, and that's not to say that people can't learn how to do it.
It's not easy.
It's not really fun either. I mean, it is fun, but it's not fun because it's hard. All the pressure really is on the captain. I mean, if your team doesn't work out, I always felt like, okay, the team goes off and, you lose a game, team goes off, whatever, week's over. I always sat there like, well, what the fuck? Like what went wrong? How can we fix this? Now I've got to corral people into practice. And like, there's just so many steps that you have to take to like rebound your team from a loss. And I don't know. I don't know how many people actually do that. I don't know how many people actually sit objectively. And we've all captained and had not so great seasons, but I never felt like I lost the room. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like we were all there together on it. Like at the end of the day, I put the team together and we lost, but it was a team loss, not a me. Maybe that's just because I have an ego, but yeah, it's a hard thing to do, and he's definitely got it. He's got the skills. He's got the knowledge. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's got the respect. So I don't know.
It's kind of baffling. I just don't think Alpha has the demeanor for it. I think Alpha could be a great teammate and play for a great captain and do very well. I'm just not sure Alpha's captain material. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
The best player of all time never captained a single season, and that was Chewy.
Yep. Wouldn't have been a good captain.
What I'm saying? What's that?
He would not have been a good.
He would have been a terrible captain. He didn't have the personality for it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just might be time to say, you know what? I'm not made for this. Like I don't have the demeanor that I need to have. I don't have the personality that I need to have. Like look at somebody like Ty, and he's in the chat. So like, he's going to respond. That's partially why I'm saying this. Ty is like shitty now compared to what he used to be as a player. Like Ty used to be really fucking good, but he's still like, when you play for Ty, when you play a Ty, like you still feel like it's not a question of like who's making the calls around here. Like
it's fucking Ty, right?
Yeah, and like you might disagree with him, but you're not going to be like, you know what? Nope, because he just has that presence. He has that demeanor about him where he's like, no, I'm in charge. Like this is what we're doing. Yeah. And he's very open and he'll talk about stuff like, but it's hard because where do you draw the line? Where do you say, okay, you can't tell him he can't do it anymore. If he's willing to do it, then let him keep doing it. But there is a certain point where it's like, as a player, like you have to start wondering if like this is what you're cut out for. And it sucks because as a captain, you're like, I want a captain because I want to control my own fate. But I don't know. Like I'm rooting for Alpha to do well. I want to see Alpha like build a super team and just fucking tear through the league. And to be honest with you, it looked like he had one this season, but it just hasn't panned out, man.
Well, and what I wanted to bring up too is the fact that, like, yeah, we can say all this stuff about, people that are built to be captains, not built to be captains, people that just don't, they're never able to really grasp onto what works for them. I will say there's such a limited amount of players that are actually willing to step up and captain.
Exactly.
As much as we can sit here and criticize other people, like, you got to give it. I've always respected people that stepped up, especially I think for me, I think I was the first person that actually took a chance on Legion and said, Legion, you're going to captain, and he wasn't, it took him a while really to reach the point where I thought he could be, that elite captain, that person that, can lead a team like he can now.
He fucking sucks.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. But It's people like that and I always viewed Alpha the same way, where he's really, really evolved his game in the last couple of years. But when he first started captaining, I don't think he was quite there yet skill-wise. So I think he's caught up to where he needs to be skill-wise, but he's got to take that extra step as kind of the leader, de facto decider of, what the fuck goes on in the middle of a crazy-ass game. And that might, maybe having a team with Denzela and Turska and having it not work out might be the impetus for that. I don't know. But
I hope so. I do. And to be clear, I don't think like his captaining rights should be taken away.
No, of course not.
I'm just speaking out loud here. Like I don't know what's right. So yeah, I big shout out to Alpha and then big shout out to Tiger. I think he's been a wonderful captain. Yeah. Yep.
As I've mentioned, Tiger was the first person to come to Dragon and say, "I want to captain."
Yeah.
You got to give it up to people like that, and then he's backing it up with playing some fucking great games. And
I hope he does another. Yeah, and I hope he does in other leagues too. I really hope he does because that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to Tiger.
All right, well that wraps up week 3, and let's look ahead to week 4. Last week before the playoffs, every team is still in contention for the playoffs. There's a possibility, thanks to Disparal's extremely very good math skills, better than my English skills. He managed to figure out that we could have a 5-way tie for the playoffs if things worked out a certain way. So every team is still in contention, which we love to see. I'll throw up the maps here. So the week 4 maps, we got kind of an old map, but not really. We got map 53, Lazarus Reinvented, which is the updated version of Smart CTF map 6 that we all love. We got another Aura map, map 52, which Trenchfoot, which I'm super excited to see that map get played if it gets played. And then we got map 11. Awesome. Okay. Map 11, Toxic Refineries 2 from Core. That's another good map. That was actually my team's home field pick in the playoffs last season. Yeah, I go back and forth on that map. I'm not so big on it after losing pretty badly in the playoffs, but I liked it the week before.
Did FSN make that map?
Yes, he did.
Shout out to my French Egyptian friend FSN, wherever you are, brother. Love you.
I see him all the time on suggested friends on Facebook.
Yeah, he messages me every now and again, and he says, and I'm going to butcher the French on this, but he calls me a bitch in French. We'll just say that.
I prefer to just attack you in English, but
yeah, well, but I miss that guy. I hate the map. I love him. I hate his map though. I hate that map.
Well, it's a different map. It is toxic. It's pretty wide open. You get that sphere in the middle, but it's such a hard map to defend because you can get kind of attacked from 3 different ways. It's like a fucking spork, like you can just, it's hard to defend. And when you get out with the flag, I mean, you can just kind of go in like 5 different directions. So it's a really interesting map. And then you match it up with the reinvention of Lazarus, Smart CTF map 6. I think Chain made some adjustments to the map. Now I should say that Chain was gone for 10 years, and during that period of time, map 6 became like the biggest map in CTF. And so I think when he came back, he had a lot of issues with the way that his map looked and things that he wanted to do, and so he made some adjustments. He made the hallways a little wider. He made the rooms a little wider. He changed some stuff up in the middle. He made some different spawns and stuff, and I think there was a little bit of pushback to some of the changes that he made. So he adjusted them, and he basically made it more or less like the original, with it's just a little wider. And the middle is still slightly different, but it's not so different that you wouldn't recognize the map. So that's a really interesting addition. We've really only played it in Prive and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how well it's going to play in comparison to the original version, but we got that in there. And then Trenchfoot is a really fast-paced map Grindfest that kind of utilizes these like lifts in the middle that you can time if you can do it right. So that's another unplayed map. So we got sort of a classic in Toxic Refineries 2 and two things out of left field. So I think it's a really interesting mixture of maps for our week 4. What do you think?
Can I talk about? Yeah, I was gonna say, can I talk? Like, please. I'm just gonna dismiss Toxic Refineries 2. It's kind of like it's kind of like a polarizes probably. It's like a really binary map, like in terms of preference. Like people either really like it or they don't, and I just don't like it. I don't think it's a bad map. I just don't like it. So I'll push that one off. Put it on the back burner and address Lazarus Reinvented and Trenchfoot. So let me start with Lazarus Reinvented. When we introduced that map into competitive play for the first time ever was the winter season of the IDL in 2012. And at first, people bitched like crazy. But by the end of the week, it was very clear that map was like adored by a lot of people. I fell in love with the map. I loved the defense on it. I loved offense. I loved mid. Like everything was interesting on that map. Was it perfect? No, there's no such thing as a perfect map. Sometimes those flaws are what we should better define as nope, it's what gives the map character. It's what separates the map. I understand what Shane Dude is thinking with every change that he, like, you can look at the original and you can, juxtapose it over the new version. And you can literally just see what he's thinking. You can see he's thinking too cramped here, not clear here, awkward angle here. This jump is too easy. And I get it. But I'm not a fan of reworking maps that are popular that have known success. And, and Dastin said, 08 is a perfect map. People are just haters. I want to touch on that because that's my point. There's no such thing as a perfect map. Like, you love it, and that's fine. But how would you feel if map 8 just got completely reworked? Like, let's say, you know what? That lift area, it's just too crowded. We're going to open it up and make it just more open so that it's easier to run through. Like, does it change the map a ton? No. But does it change enough that you remove some of the character and some of the things that people like about it? And quite frankly, their familiarity with a popular entity? Yeah. And people don't like that. So I think it's one of those where it's like a really difficult thing because Chain Dude is a proven mapper. Like, we all like his maps. Like, I'm not shitting on his map. I just don't, again, I'm not a fan of really reworking maps at all under any scenario. If it's successful, why fix what isn't broken? And if it's not successful, chances are it's not successful because it sucks and it just needs to be gutted and redone anyway. So you can take concepts of a map and apply them to new ones, but just reworking them just doesn't feel good. It's now, does that mean that Lazarus Reinvented won't produce good games or won't have good gameplay? Absolutely not. I suspect that it'll play very well. I suspect that should it be picked for somebody's home field, you'll see good games. I suspect that the gameplay is top notch, like all Chain Dude's maps are, where he like overthinks every pixel of the map. But I just go back to I don't think you need to fix what isn't broken. So I suspect it'll be played. I think the games will be great. I just didn't see the need for it to be reworked. But in the interest of putting new maps in, like, fuck yeah, throw that in there. Because if you know what I mean, like if we're gonna go the new maps route, like let's open that one up because that's a really interesting and fascinating aspect to this. Is like, hey, it's an old new map. As for Trenchfoot, it's okay. I practiced on it a bunch tonight. I played a bunch of private CTF on it. I think it's going to feel a lot like old 31. Was it Mount Zero? No, Mount Zero is.
Yeah, that's 31.
Yeah. There's not really a lot of depth to the map. It's kind of just Zerg, and Zerg, and that's what you do. I guess the approaching the lift areas and then the small little platforms that you could lower to get across the top area of one base to the other theoretically makes it like a really, but it's just not, because the lift takes too long to come down and there's a spawn right there. So I'm just going to say it'll probably just play like all the other traditional Grindfest maps. It won't be spectacular, but it won't be bad. Unfortunately, it won't be able to port very well to other ports because of the reliance on 3D floors. Especially in that map, because 3D floors give you a lot of coverage by how you run on the upper platforms. You can use the 3D floors to shield off defenders that are chasing you down, and not to mention the Soul Sphere is sitting on a 3D floor, which is it? I think it is. Maybe not. I don't think it is. I don't remember. Let me look. I was just playing it.
I mean, it's on a ledge. I don't know if it's a 3D floor or not, but
what's that?
It's on a ledge. I'm not sure if it's a 3D floor.
It is. I could tell you in like 2 seconds. It is not on a 3D floor. But still, you don't want to use 3D floors where they're so integral, because like I'm telling you, you guys will see it this week that those 3D floors are actually very good for helping you get coverage. And the difference between 3D floors and what we use in other ports, which are, invisible bridge things and then textures, is the invisible bridge things don't block hit scans. So you can shoot right through them. Whereas 3D floors do.
Yep.
And that drastically changes gameplay. So unfortunately, for what I see as a good map, I don't think it's going to really play very well on other ports, and it'll look shitty too. So this is why and this is what I'm going to say to mappers, because this was kind of like a mapping thing. There's nothing wrong. If you want to say, you know what, I only want this map to be played on Zandronum, 3D floors is a big thing for me, fine. But understand that you are significantly limiting the exposure factor of your map by doing that, especially if 3D floors are critical. Number two, even if they're not instrumental to be 3D floors, that means that somebody has to go through the task of porting them over and changing them to invisible bridges. So I'm excited that we're going to see another 3D floor map in there. It's something new. It doesn't necessarily feel doomish. But I'm concerned for mappers that use a lot of 3D floors as integral parts of the map, because they're not really going to be playable on other ports.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how much people enjoy the map, whether or not we could say we could edit it to make it, not utilize 3D floors. Because
when it's a grind fest, it doesn't matter. Like, why would you?
That's true. I mean, I think there are some aspects to the map that I like that sort of play a little bit more towards that like newer style, which is, I mean, if you, let's say you're in one of the bases and you're outside one of those lifts, the two lifts in the middle, you can lower one of those lifts, drop down, grab the flag, go back up the lift, and still make it out in time before that lift closes. I like that, because if you can make, like, I can just see somebody like Dastin doing that run and people being like in a game like, holy shit, So I like that aspect of it. I do think that the bottom area is a little crowded, and you might find a lot of, I don't know,
fuckery.
Just like unnecessariness down there. Like it's just. But I don't know. I mean, I've only played it a couple times, so I'm not really sure. But
it's pretty in your face. It's in your face. It'll be hard. It's going to be hard. For whoever streams that map, it's going to be hard to keep up with. It's just very fast paced.
Yeah. But
it's just it's a good map. I'm not shitting on it. I take up an issue with 3D floors for the reason that the MDF and most Doom ports cannot play 3D floors. So as the MDF, like we're looking at every Doom port. So when yours is only going to work on one, just think about that going forward as a level editor.
Definitely. And if we look ahead to the matches for this week, we actually see 2 games are scheduled right now, and they're both playing different maps. So we've already got a game on Lazarus Reinvented, and we've got a game on Trenchfoot. So we're going to see both brand new maps this week. So I guess we'll get to see how those play out. Let's jump ahead to the actual matchups. As I mentioned previously, all 8 teams are still in contention for the playoffs.
But 2 of them have seed locked. They have playoff berths locked up, I believe.
This is
maybe
true.
3. Maybe it's 3. It might even be 3.
It might
obviously
be 3.
EDR.
I think it's EDR,
GLF,
SOS, and GLF.
I think those are the 3 teams that have playoff positions locked up. So feasibly, the rest of the teams, all of them, like two of those teams out of the rest could miss the playoffs.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen something quite like this. I mean, usually you get, like 4 or 5 teams maybe have qualified, and there's 3 fighting for the last 2 spots. But to have 5 teams fighting for the last spots, it's kind of crazy. So let's jump into it. EDR and SOS are going to play each other. EDR's got 12 points. SOS has 7. GLF and BNZ. GLF with 7. BNZ with 6. PK3 and SSP. And the reason why that happens, I believe, is because they skip TCO. I'm not quite sure why that happens, actually. But PK3 and SSP play each other. PK3's got 6 points. SSP has 2. TCO has 5, and they're playing against HTM, which has 3. So the first matchup, I don't think there's a map determined yet, not yet in this matchup. So it's going to make it harder to predict. But I mean, EDR has been so dominant all season that I think they're probably going to walk away with this one, especially given the map choices. I mean, you've got Trenchfoot, which is, like you said, a grind fest. I think that clearly favors EDR. Lazarus Reinvented, I think, also favors EDR because it's so well known, it's so heavily played that the players on EDR are just going to have a little bit more knowledge on how to work, the inner workings of that map and how to manipulate the other team. Map 11, is that the right map number? Yeah, map 11 is kind of a wild card because you can play as well as you think, better than you've ever played on that map, and you can still get demolished. So I think that map for SOS is probably the map that they want to go for because, they're not drawing off of knowledge from map 53, and they're not looking at the grindfest, Disparel, Shane, and Sharp on map 52 on Trenchfoot. I mean, good luck if you play them there. So I think map 11 is probably where they need to go to have a shot this week.
Yeah, I'd agree. I suppose the only question is EDR motivated? Like they have the number 1 seed locked up. There's really they have nothing left to play for. Of course, they probably are to say, like, we want to go undefeated. We want to run the whole table. So,
sure.
And I don't get the sense that Desparrow's the type of guy that's going to want to say, like, let's purposely lose so that we could play Team X in the first round.
Viable strategy if you make it work right.
Yeah. But I don't see Desparrow doing that. So I think ultimately you're going to get the best version of EDR. And I'm with you. I think whatever map they play on, it's likely EDR wins, but Toxic Refineries 2 probably gives SOS the best chance.
Yeah. Is that your cat? Yeah, it is your cat.
Fuck off.
It's like I told you to fuck off right back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think EDR is going to take this one. So let's jump ahead to GLF and BNZ, which you guys are actually playing on Trenchfoot. So I just realized this, and my brain is kind of like trying to process it because, let's see, you've got Lang, Podo, Stal, Hate, and then, throw in the possibility of Azrael, and you've got X-Wiz for, I mean, could you have picked a more frag-heavy map for the two? Like, this matchup is insane on this map. I don't even know what to say about it. Like
0 to 0, 0 to 0, 0 to 0.
Pretty much. I mean, it's going to be a fucking miracle if either one of these teams scores on each other. This is a hard one to predict. I mean, I think with Lang defending, it's really going to come down to Tanya being able to distract whoever's defending on your team. Can we get the cat to give a comment? Whoever's defending on your team, to distract them enough so that Poto can get in and grab a flag. But I just don't see the map being big enough for that. So I don't know. It's going to go 3 rounds, and it wouldn't surprise me. It really would not surprise me if it was 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It wouldn't. But I think you guys are going to edge it out. I think you're going to figure it out. On a map like this, right?
Yeah.
On a map like this, I think you guys just have a little bit more experience in dealing with like frag heavy maps, I think you guys got this one.
I don't have a lot to say about it. It's tough when you lose. And we felt confident as a team going into our match with EDR. So I think as a team, we're in like a really vulnerable spot because this is kind of like a make or break sort of game. Like chances are, chances are we are in the playoffs one way or another, right? Right. It's not a sure thing, but it's probable that we're in. And this is the type of game where it's like, okay, like we lost last week. Did it go like we wanted it to? How do we come out and respond? Like, do we just kind of lay down when the first bad thing happens? Or do we come out swinging? Like, are we mad? Are we pissed? It's definitely a balancing act because
you look pissed.
I'm annoyed. Yeah, I don't like losing. But it's and I'm along. I've been a captain for many seasons. Styles been a captain for many seasons. Wiz is even captained a few times. One of the things I'll tell you is it is so hard to manage a team after a loss because every team responds differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even harder when you lose to a really good team, then you have to turn around and play another really good team. It's draining, it's taxing. But it's, again, like the competitive player in me loves it, and the competitive player in anybody should love this. but you just don't know. You don't know how the teams are going to respond, and it's just about pushing the right buttons at this point. Like, yeah, we should be mad. We lost. We're better than that. We feel like we're better than that. But at the same time, like, you could also go into a game and just be like too aggressive because of that mentality and like dig yourself a huge hole. And you have to be able to develop like amnesia, like selective amnesia. Like, okay, when things go bad, like, okay, we're not going to think back like, oh man, this is EDR all over again. Like, no, it's for me, that's the interesting thing for us. I think for everybody else looking in, you could just expect like, two like bulky, aggressive teams just headbutting each other until one is concussed enough to the point where like their eyes melt. Outside of that, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think it's very interesting to talk about in terms of like strategy. It's just like we're gonna hear a lot of Doom guys screaming because it's just gonna be frag after frag.
I would agree with that. I had a really good point, and I think I lost it. But
good job.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that's going to be a tough game. I don't really know. Like I said, I think I got to go with you guys, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it was my dog shaking over there.
What was that?
Yeah.
Fucking animals.
Just fucking animals, man. I don't know. So, yeah, it's going to be a good game, though. I'm really excited to watch that. I think that's going to be my game of the week. That's the one I'm circling that I have to be there for. So I hope you guys bring it. But
yep, bright and early.
Yep. Our next game, we got PK3 and SSP, and we actually figured out that they're going to be playing on Lazarus Reinvented. So PK3 obviously has Chain, and that's a huge advantage for them. But they also have Dragon and Toby, and I might be biased because I've played with them, but and I've played with them on that map. When I played with Dragon, that was our home field pick. And the thing about Dragon is I can say to him on a map like that, like, I want you to sit in the middle. I just want you to frag everybody. And you give him a European server and you give him control of the SSG in the middle and control of the spawns. Good luck. I don't have to do anything on defense. I can just sit around and, Dragon might get killed every 30 frags, and I might clean up, behind him, but you're not getting by him. I see that happening this week, and I see it happen.
Denzela and Turska?
Well, here's the thing, is that we were talking about the game this week. How much does the way that they played in week 3 affect their performance in week 4? Like you said, bouncing back from a loss. I mean, it's kind of a brutal loss for them, especially the circumstances. I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Are they going to get enough practice in? Because if there's one thing that we know about Chain is he's very motivated at the moment to play Doom, and Dragon highlights all the fucking time. Every other time I look at my phone is PK3 practice. They're ready for practice, and SSP is going against the guy that made the map and someone that, in my opinion, is a top 2 player on this map, and Dragon. Dragon knows how to play this map. He's played it a lot. Yep.
I just say bed like second best or what is I don't know. Just be a man and say
he is the best.
Be a man and say he's the fucking best. All right, there.
Fine, he's the best. Fuck you, man.
Just say it. Okay.
He's the best, in my opinion.
Don't bitch out like top 2. Like, we know what the fuck you mean. You think he's the best? Just say it.
There's someone else too that I think is.
Who?
I would have to say that Ralphus is probably the only other person I know that really understands how that map works to the level that Dragon does. And again, biased because I'm I'm talking about people that I've played with.
That's fair.
There's people that I've played against, I mean, I think Stal's really fucking good at that map.
Yeah, but you just beat Ralphus with a toupee. It's not that hard. Come on, I have to.
It's fine, man. I'm not saying anything. I'm just, I don't want to get in trouble later. I don't want to get fucking messages at 3 a.m. Yeah. So yeah, I just think PK3's got this one. I don't think it's going to 3 rounds. I think it's going to be in 2, and I think unfortunately this will be the end of a disappointing season for SSP.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I just don't. I'm with you. Yeah. It's just.
Please surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago before a single team played, and you said, "Hey, you're going to see a clash of like Denzela and Turska, like facing off with like Toby and Dragon," like I'd be like, "Fuck
probably
yeah,
I'm
all for that. Like let's fucking see that." But like now, because of just the trajectory of the teams and what I've seen, I'm just like, dude, is like SSP even going to show up? Like,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, are they even going to bother?
Yeah,
like they can still make the playoffs, but it's going to take, a pretty monumental win and then some things to fall into their, for luck to go their way. So,
and then let's say they make the playoffs, they have to keep playing.
Yeah,
that might not be something they want to do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like, is this a team that's like fractured, or is this just a team that's indifferent? Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't know. So,
yeah. Well, it should be interesting. I do expect them to show up, but I think PK3's got it. And our final game, TCO and HTM. We don't have a map on this match yet, which, hello, Ty. Actually, I don't think I told you what map I prefer, so I won't give you shit for it. But I can't talk too much about it. Don't know the map, but I do know that I'm going up against Dastin and Legion and Salt Mine and somebody else. I don't know who the other person is.
Isn't it Agitated
Skill? Yeah. Agiskill. Great player, too. So, that's a really tough team. And any of these maps, I would be, and I am nervous about having to play Dastin on it because he's a top 2 runner. He's a really good runner right now.
Say that again. Say it just like that.
Yeah, no. So I don't want to play him. He's a top 2 runner. I don't want to play him again.
Jesus Christ.
I don't want to play him. So that's all I can say is that TCO is a good team. I think their points are lower than, their skill level. I think they've had a couple bad breaks, and they showed that they can be really strong in certain matches. So, yeah, that's all I can say is that fuck.
I think it'll be a good game. I think you guys actually match up well with them, believe it or not. I think you guys frag well enough to slow Dastin down. And depending on the map, it's going to come down to Legion. I think that if Legion plays on a more grind heavy, like duke it out style of map, I think that's his game right now.
That's classic Ty, by the way. Nobody can misspell better than Ty except for J-Kist.
I bid 27 on Dastin, and you don't love him more than me hate. Oh, I don't give a fuck about. No, I don't like either of you. No, but yeah, I love you. Oh, yeah, that's right. I fucking love you. Come here. But I think you guys do definitely have a chance to beat them, just because I think at every position you guys can frag well. So that means that you can always slow a team down defensively. And I'm going to be honest. I expect TCO to win. I think Legion is very good on Zandronum.
Very.
And for that reason, I just kind of feel like you guys will probably frag them a bunch. It'll be close, but it's probably just going to be kind of like it's going to be one of those games that gets away from you. Like, oh shit, like they got a couple of flags and now we can't catch up. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm truthfully, I'm coin flipping this, and I picked heads and their team was heads. So that's all I've got. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys won either though. So,
well, should be an interesting week. Going through the matchups again, we got EDR versus SOS, GLF versus BNZ, PK3 versus SSP, and TCO versus HTM. We got 2 games scheduled throughout those times right now. GLF, they're both on Sunday right now, so GLF and BNZ are going to be playing Sunday, April 18th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
And PK3 versus SSP, I'm going to have to yell at Dragon. They're playing at 1 p.m. Eastern. I asked him to put the games in order of when they're getting played, because that's how I think of it. Like, why would you put, like a Saturday game here and then a Sunday game here? It just doesn't compute, So he's got the 2:30 game above the 1 o'clock.
Dragon
game.
Is fucking high. I don't know.
Yeah, I just like to bitch at him. So before we sign off, give me an MVP for week 3. Who do you think was the best player to come out in week 3?
Langrenus. Yeah, Langren. Just what? Go back and watch him in round 1. It was like just every like the entire fucking game. If you're just like spectating it from his perspective, you just hear double kill, multi kill, double kill, multi kill, like the whole fucking time.
Yeah,
like just gotta give the guy props, man. I think he busted his ass and it showed.
Yeah, I think he was the most impactful player for his team, but I have a hard time looking past 10 flag captures from Daston. I really do.
It took him like 8 rounds.
Yeah. No, not quick enough. No. Okay. Well, I'm going to go with that.
I'm just defending my pick. I think that's a good pick.
That's
too.
Fine.
10 caps is a big deal.
Yeah.
10 caps. Shout out to both Daston and Langrenus.
I agree. All right. Well, this has been Vengeance Radio number 3. We will see you guys next week for number 4, following our week 4 matches, and we'll preview the first round of the playoffs.
Woo.
Thank you, Hate.
Yep, thank you.
And we'll see everybody next week at some point, probably this late again.
Yep, see you guys next week.
All right.